going to present the first results of a pilot experimental study on quantity inferences in conditionals. So quantity inferences in conditionals have been known as conditional perfection, and it was introduced in the seminal paper by Gols and Zwicky, and also in some other papers, discussed later in some other papers. So it is illustrated in the following example. If you mow the lawn, I will give you $5. So the hearer might infer from this the following: if you do not mow the lawn, I won't give you $5. Fillenbaum tested various types of conditionals and various types of negation, and here are proportions of accepted inferences only for temporals, causals, and for contingent universals, because they are relevant for what I'm going to talk about today. So the main result by Fillenbaum is that contingent universals are quite different, significantly different from all other conditionals, so from temporals, causals, as well as from promises and threats. So the goals of the both experiments are as follows. Firstly, to verify the idea whether derivation of conditional perfection is affected by types of conditionals, negation in antecedent and or consequent, and different order of antecedent and consequent. And the second goal is to test processing of types of conditionals, negation in antecedent and or consequent, and different order of antecedent and consequent. Following Fillenbaum's results of sentence types, we saw prediction 1 in the following way. Causals temporals would receive significantly more yes responses in the inference task than contingent universals. Secondly, following Fillenbaum's results of negation types, we formulated prediction 2 as follows. Derivation of conditional perfection would not depend upon negation. Next, following Evans and Newsted's paper, negation processing in conditionals is time-consuming, and following Schoens et al.'s paper, negation processing in the antecedent of a conditional takes more time than negation processing in the consequent. Therefore, we formulated prediction 3 as follows. Reading times for conditionals with no negation would be faster than reading times for conditionals with single negation. More precisely, negation in the consequent would be processed faster than negation in the antecedent, and single negation would be processed faster than negation in both the antecedent and consequent. And last, prediction 4 is that inferential questions with no negation would be processed faster than questions with single negation, and single negation would be processed faster than negation in both the antecedent and consequent. So in the inferential questions, we expected to get reaction times the other way around. So quite different from the reading times. The first experiment had 2x4 design, so we tested sentences and negation, resulting in 8 conditions and in 32 critical items. And the structure of a critical item was if plus subject plus negation if applicable plus 2 phonetic words, followed by subject plus negation if applicable plus 3 phonetic words. And the experiment was conducted in Russian. Here are given some examples of critical items for causals temporals, so let me read one of them. Anna tells Boris, if Polina doesn't put on her scarf, she will get frozen in winter outdoors. Would you infer from this that if Polina puts on her scarf, she won't get frozen in winter outdoors? And let me read one critical item for contingent universals. Jakob tells Yulia, if a luggage is carried to a plane, the plane is about to depart. Would you infer from this that if the luggage is not carried to the plane is not about to depart? The first experiment, the first sentence in each context was preceded with a fixation dot. Participants had to press a space bar after reading one sentence so that the following sentence appeared on the screen. Participants' reading times were recorded. So the last sentence of each context was formulated as an inference task, this one, followed with yes and no answers. Participants' reaction times were recorded. Yes responses for critical items indicated derivation of conditional perfection, and the study was conducted via Ibex Farm. A link to it was uploaded to Yandex Toloka, which is an online platform for workers to perform unsophisticated tasks for monetary compensation. The prediction 1 was not fulfilled, even though reaction times were significantly different. So it means that in terms of yes responses, causals temporals did not differ from contingent universals. Secondly, prediction 2 was fulfilled. So it means that derivation of conditional perfection does not depend upon negation. And predictions 3 and 4 were only partially fulfilled. It means that in terms of prediction 3, the pattern if not P, Q, so this one, if not P, then Q, sorry, this one, differed from if P, it should be if P not Q, and from if P Q. Moreover, the pattern if not P not Q differed from if P not Q and from if P Q. So we saw that if not P, so in the negation in the antecedent and the negation in both the antecedent and consequent are quite different from the rest. As for prediction 4, the results showed that the pattern if not P not Q, this one, differed from each other patterns. From each other pattern, so from if not P, from if P not Q, and from if P Q. And we also had a main effect of negation. So what can we say about the results of the first experiment? Well, derivation of conditional perfection is not dependent upon negation factor, at least in the pilot experiment. Negation processing for negated antecedent, if not PQ, and for negated antecedent and consequent, if not P not Q, in reading task is time-consuming. And moreover, reaction times for contingent universals were longer than reaction times for causals temporals, probably due to the fact that the latter ones quantified over entities and worlds, whereas the latter ones quantified over worlds with one specific topical entity, coined by the proper name. And now let's move to the second experiment, where we tested sentences and order. Here we modified prediction 1, so it's now called prediction 1A, according to the results of the first experiment. Moreover, we formulated prediction 5, relying upon the following observation found in the literature. As has been partially demonstrated by Van Til and Schaken's paper, derivation of conditional perfection is not affected by the order of the antecedent and consequent of a conditional. However, here we compared causals temporals versus contingent universals, and it seemed that for the former ones, the order of antecedent and consequent would be important since it reflected the order of events referred to. Therefore, prediction 5 is that direct, that is antecedent plus consequent order, would be processed faster than the inverse order, that is consequent plus antecedent. But presumably this would not hold for contingent universals. And the second experiment had 2x2 design, that is, we tested two factors, sentences and order, resulting in 4 conditions and in 32 critical items. The materials and procedure were quite similar to the ones of the first experiment. And the experiment was also conducted in Russian. Okay, Here we see that prediction 1A was fulfilled, so this accords with the results of the first experiment, and this is good. And we also had the main effect of order. However, prediction 5 was partially fulfilled. It means that direct order, that is antecedent plus consequent, for causals temporals was processed faster than the inverse order, that is consequent plus antecedent, in terms of reading times, although not in terms of reaction times. And remarkably, the order seemed to affect processing of conditional universals, at least in terms of reaction times. So what can we say in the discussion section for the second experiment? Well, derivation of conditional perfection is not dependent upon the order factor. However, we see we have some equivocal results for reading times and for reaction times. Firstly, causals temporals in the direct order are read faster than the ones in the inverse order. And secondly, universals in the direct order, unlike the ones in the inverse order, facilitate derivation of conditional perfection in terms of reaction times. For the order, we want to test question under discussion and focus position, so we see it as further research. So to conclude, if we take a more pragmatic perspective, then derivation of conditional perfection by itself is not dependent upon negation and order factors, although these two factors affect reaction, that is, decision times to derive conditional perfection. And the result that is more linguistic is that negation and order factors affect processing of conditionals. There is much literature on this topic. I think probably more on negation than on order factor for conditionals. So that is all what I wanted to mention, and I'm looking forward to your questions and comments. Thank you.